presentation is titled "Why Sitecore Content Hub DAM and evaluating DAM options." So I work at NMDP, which is a customer of Sitecore, and we're kind of in that process of like evaluating these options. So figure this would be a good timely presentation to kind of be able to share with some of the learnings we've had and kind of why we're kind of leaning in the direction of Sitecore Content Hub DAM. So just kind of a quick agenda. I'll give a quick bio about myself, about what NMDP is, like what we do, our challenge and why we were kind of looking at this area, evaluating some of the DAM options, and specifically Sitecore Content Hub DAM, and then some key takeaways at the end. So a little bit about me. At the moment I'm currently former two-time Sitecore Strategy MVP. I'm in the process of trying to reapply. So I have my mentor, Megan, and so I'm excited about that. I started using Sitecore, I think on Sitecore 6-ish, around there. I've used Sitecore XM and XP, familiar with Content Hub, personalization, and other tools as well. Right now, I manage the web production team for NMDP. So we have a team of I have three individuals on my team, and we're pretty much responsible for updating our websites. We have 4 main websites. Our main website, nmdp.org. We have another site called Network, which is around like some of our network partners, and then we have a couple of other more specialty focused websites that we also update. Network has a certain content is behind gates, so each kind of website has its own specialty there. And I also focus on digital strategy, so and our Sitecore strategy, so kind of understanding where we're going with our tools and seeing if Sitecore can be of help and seeing how we integrate those tools. My background, I've worked in higher education, nonprofits, fundraising, software, and healthcare. And I currently live outside of Philadelphia with my wife and my daughter. About NMDP, so you might have heard of us in the past. Our former name was Be the Match, and we also NMDP used to stand for National Marrow Donor Program. This is our kind of our mission, but basically we're trying to provide cell therapy for those who are suffering from blood disorders and blood cancers. We have a pretty extensive operation around our registry. We also have a foundation, and we try to make sure that both patients and those who are registering kind of can get those therapies and those cures so they can save their lives. And our focus kind of on the marketing side is to make sure that we're able to get people registered and also people to be aware of our brand and our organization so that they can sign up. We also, outside of our patients, we also are focused on transplant centers and hospitals, also making them aware because there's information and new research, because our organization also does research. So providing that research out to the community so they can kind of also update their knowledge about our products. So Sitecore helps us be able to do that, and we're constantly looking at our tech staff. So background around our challenge, if you will. So currently we have an existing DAM solution, and what have we been kind of tasked with is trying to be able to integrate that DAM solution with our Sitecore CMS. And also we also use CDP and Personalize. So we would like to be able to utilize that more. Right now it's kind of a manual process because our current DAM was kind of an afterthought when it was originally purchased. It was prior to me joining the organization, and it's not fully integrated. So you're not able to get those kind of seamlessness with the DAM. It's a very manual process. So that's one of the things we were kind of biggest kind of challenge we wanted to be able to do. Also, we want to ensure it's the right solution, because even though we have this DAM solution, the kind of functionality, we want to be able to evaluate that, make sure it's the right solution for our organization as we're growing, and also where we want to be and where we want to scale. And so Those kind of are two kind of, I guess, big challenges. Outside of those, we wanted to make sure also, you know, when we purchased originally the DAM solution that we have, it was prior to our migrating to Sitecore, and so there was minimal thought given to it. So it's something that we've had. It was mainly used by our brand side. They use it in many ways as more of a storage for images, as opposed to the many robust features that you can have within DAMs, as we know. And so, you know, when it was purchased, there have been massive improvements with our current solution, also with Sitecore. So those are things that we wanted to be able to capitalize on. Additionally, our current DAM kind of goes hand in hand with that, is that, you know, team that is using it is kind of has minimal experience to it. So our team that I manage and run, we're kind of focusing on Sitecore and kind of being in that direction. Our current DAM solution, the people who are using it kind of minimally. They haven't really adopted it because it's not integrated, and they are kind of using competing tools that in different ways that the DAM could already be of use. So we're trying to get people to that's kind of one of the things that we're looking at. And then, as I was saying, we additionally want to scale with Sitecore. So I think that's one of the areas why we were looking at Content Hub. Additionally, we want to make sure the DAM's the source of truth for all of our marketing assets. Right now, it's a source of truth for image assets, but we're not necessarily putting videos in there or PDFs or other documents. We're also not necessarily using it for the work that we maybe do with other agencies or groups. We want to be able to use that. Those are capabilities that are in a DAM solution that should be used. And then the final kind of two areas were analytics and automation. We would like to be able to see how our assets are performing, how our content's performing, and be able to automate some of that work. Right now, like as I said, it was manual, and also being able to leverage in the future some of the AI capabilities that are available and that can be utilized as well on top of Content Hub and other Sitecore tools. So we were evaluating options. In the marketplace, you know, the landscape is vast. There are quite a few DAM products out there, and you know, each one is kind of geared toward different organizations, different systems, and different needs. You know, you have simpler tools like Brandfolder and Cloudinary and Acquia that kind of are able to do some of these features. They have different functionality as well, and different business models and how they sell their product. Kind of have mid-range tools like Binder and Aprimo and Media Valet. All of those kind of having more of your typical functionality that you want in the DAM, but you know, being able, if you want additional functionality, a lot of that's add-ons and you know, as pieces to that work. And then you kind of have where Sitecore kind of sits in a more robust category, where it's a lot of feature-rich, you know, ability to scale with other pieces within the Content Hub product. You know, not just the DAM itself, and you know, and other competitors in that similar space. So as we were looking and evaluating, you know, we were looking at, you know, kind of across this and looking at these tools. And the two that I'll call out in particular, you know, obviously the Sitecore Content Hub, but also Binder, because Binder is the solution that we're currently using. What are kind of the key differences, I guess, between these two tools? Binder consistently usually ranks in this in any of the quadrants, whether it's Gartner or G2 or any of those. Usually is a top solution. It is a good solution. But a lot of its functionality is very, you know, they have a different business model than Sitecore. Their business model is very, you know, start you with very basic level. You get a lot of the key functionality you would think in a DAM, being able to download assets, upload, be able to have certain permission levels, being able to you know, connect with if you're doing collections or tagging solutions. All that is standard parts are part of the DAM solution. It tends to be a little bit more user friendly. So if you're as we know with Sitecore tools, you need to have a little bit more knowledge and experience around them, and they take a little bit of knowledge. But Binder, it has a little bit of user-friendly interface. If you're going with add-ons, a lot of the add-ons are unclear as well around what is entailed in each of their tools. So when you're looking at Sitecore Content Hub, a lot of that is pretty clear. Like the DAM does this. If you're doing the project management capabilities or any of the campaign management, all of those are pretty clear as to what's in those spots. A tool like Binder, it's a little different. And then the other key thing I want to point out is kind of like integration capabilities. So with Content Hub, generally it integrates very nicely with other Sitecore pieces, and they're connected in that way. With Binder, it has that ability too, and it would sit nicely also within XM or XP. But it also has a separate third-party integration. So that's out there. So that's just a consideration that to take into consideration. And it primarily integrates with Sitecore's XM platform. So it's not necessarily with other tools within an ecosystem. You could integrate those obviously with other kind of APIs, but they're not necessarily integrated with the initial integration that they have for it. On the Content Hub side, Content Hub is more robust with its integration capabilities. For us, we were looking at it from how it integrates with our current Sitecore tools that we're using, and also just core platforms that we may want to have it integrate with in the future. So things like maybe Salesforce or maybe our marketing automation tools, things like that. Again, you're able to search nicely in there and browse content. You can do that as well in Binder, that they have those capabilities. But I think Sitecore Content Hub has more robust features around that and being able to do that. Sitecore also has stronger kind of permission levels and tagging functionality. There's a lot of the ability to be able to, see and search, tags that you have and be able to update them across the board and have that alert you. So that's kind of in that product. And as I said, you can also scale. So whether you're scaling with, other pieces within Content Hub itself, or if you're using other tools, different teams use Jira or Asana, there's capabilities there. But Sitecore Content Hub has those capabilities as well, and while Binder may have some of those abilities, is not as robust as the offering that Sitecore provides. When we were narrowing in, we kind of had three options that we kind of did as we were evaluating it. Since, as I say, we're existing using Binder. We could either integrate as is with the current version of it, or we could integrate. Another option would be to integrate and upgrade Binder. So Binder also has other products as well, similar to Sitecore, that have different functionality and features. When you get to that scale, it would also be a similar price range as Sitecore kind of offers as you're adding this functionality. Or the third option is kind of exploring other vendors, and in this case, one of those would be, in this case, was Sitecore Content Hub DAM, because we're already using Sitecore XM, and we use CDP and Personalize. So it would fit nicely into that ecosystem as opposed to a different solution, and help us be able to scale easier, because we know that further down the line we'll have other needs too that we want to be able to solve for. Why Sitecore specifically? I think these are kind of the key features there. I want to kind of call out two, I think, in particular. I think that of the main capabilities, I think one is integration capabilities. I think that's really key. I think Sitecore really does. The Content Hub DAM has those capabilities, and it's strong. I think when you're looking at the typical DAM functionality that most marketing teams need, my team, we work with marketers constantly within our organization, and they're constantly looking to search images. I know for our specific use case, we tend to have patients that we may need, a patient may approve of an image once, but then maybe they passed away, or maybe they no longer want to be shown for different reasons. So we always monitor that. A DAM, our DAM solution can do that. Sitecore Content Hub could do that. And being able to work, we also work with different agency partners and different other vendors as we're going through. I think our marketers are constantly working with them. I think being able to have some of those key functionality that you would typically have in a DAM enhanced, that we're able to do that within Sitecore is key. And then the biggest one, I think, outside of the integration, is security too. I think when you're looking at Binder has a certain level of security, and it's working in that range. But when you're and some of the other tools out there do as well. When you look at Sitecore, I think having the especially also being in the healthcare side, we're looking at HIPAA compliance. We're looking at how people are looking at PII and all that. And I think Sitecore Content Hub helps to address some of those pain points and areas that we were looking at, and made it stand out. And then for other considerations, I would say down the line, as we're trying to kind of scale up into maybe utilize it for content operations, a lot of that functionality is there too. So being able to collaborate with marketers, right now we have kind of organization in particular, a lot of this is disjointed or manual efforts. So being able to kind of consolidate that and be able to kind of integrate that with our platform and our tool, we would see a lot more efficiencies and effectiveness. So I think that's one of the things that we were looking at and identifying as a future phase. So that was a key consideration as we're looking at platforms too, because if you're trying to scale, maybe you're not trying to do it today, but maybe you're trying to do it in the future. This is you don't want to kind of shoot yourself in the foot as you're trying to do that. So I think that's a key piece there. Some of the pros and cons, and I kind of I purposely pulled it out for these two because these are two we were looking at in particular. But when you are looking at these two platforms, I think the kind of key differentiators is features, robust features and functionality, and how it works with the Sitecore ecosystem. I think if you were utilizing, I know people were talking about Optimizely or other tools. I think there's different areas there, but I think if you're utilizing the Sitecore ecosystem, you're using XM and you're using CDP and Personalize and other Sitecore products, I think Content Hub definitely makes that process a lot smoother. Binder has a lot of good mid-range capabilities. I think depending on the size of your organization, it can be a good tool. I think you have to look at how you're set up as a team, how many assets you're trying to store within the tool. What regularity you're trying to update them and use them, and also what you're utilizing, or looking to utilize for personalization capabilities. I think if you're doing that on a minimal scale, then Binder might have been a good size. But I think if you're looking, I know our organization, what we're looking at, I think the Content Hub fits that and works there a lot more, a lot smoother. And some of the cons, I think the air, where you see Binder as more of a user-friendly interface, I think a lot of it's just stems from their kind of more, I guess, basic functionality that they have. That's a little bit easier. With Sitecore Content Hub, you definitely there's more extensive knowledge and training around it that's needed. as with any of the Sitecore tools, but you can get more out of it. And that I think is longer term is a good play versus the shorter term with like a solution such as Binder. I also think too, when you're looking at another kind of potential con, I think we were talking about a little bit earlier before we started the conversation, but costs in general, cost that can be a barrier for different organizations or different solutions. And I know for us, that's also a consideration we were taking in as well. Part of it is looking at, I think, from a phased approach. So what do you need now? What do you need maybe later as you're going? So do you need all of the functionality right now, or what are the capabilities you need? And I think, as we're kind of looking at it, we're looking at, starting with the DAM portion of Content Hub as opposed to going all the way through to some of the content operations capabilities. But seeing that long term, I think, is key. I think if you're an organization looking to do that, that's kind of where the approach that you should take, and see how that fits within your budget and what your priorities are. I would say, like any DAM solution, I think in today's world, that it's key. So if you're not having a DAM, or you're not, or you're trying to upgrade your DAM capabilities, I think that it should be definitely on your digital roadmap. I think that's really a key piece there. So I would say that's some of the key pieces there. On the Binder side, I think one of the other areas that made it challenging is just how they integrate. And I know I mentioned this before, but I think integration is also key, because if you're an organization and you're trying to get the most out of your tech stack and your tools, you're going to lean toward your core systems, and then look and see how your other systems are working. So if there's third-party integration and you're trying to avoid having tech debt or extra costs, or as something maybe grows or expands with it when you're Sitecore tools, you want to take that into consideration, because you want to make sure that integration is also going to still work and still function the way you expect it to. That's there. So I wanted to call that out. Some kind of the recommendation we put together and some of the key takeaways. So the future state that we were looking to go to, and we're aiming for, is kind of clear ownership and scope of the DAM. I think being able to move to a tool like Content Hub allows us to be able to do that. Consolidating some of the existing systems that we were using, that creates efficiencies within our organization, not just from a team perspective, but also from a cost perspective too, especially in the way our world and our economy is today. So I think organizations are definitely trying to make sure to get the most out of their technology solutions. I think we identified dedicated management to ensure consistency and reliability. So making sure that as we're scaling, that right now our some of these capabilities are being part of people's roles within our brand team, identifying that this is definitely something as we're scaling, we may need to have an individual to be able to kind of manage that as it scales, and being able to do that within our tool, and making sure that our brand assets and our whether they be videos or images are all consistent. I think that's a key piece on those assets. And then we're hoping to also be able to have high adoption through integrating the core platforms, because those are key platforms that we're invested in, and I think being able to do that is really a key area for us, and being able to look into being able to identify Content Hub as that kind of meeting those needs. And then longer term, like as I said, having a more dedicated person to manage those assets. I mentioned this a bit. I think it's key to take a phased approach. So that's what we're doing. We kind of have these 5 phases here. Right now we started with assessing this tool and kind of moving in this direction. I think the next step for us, we're kind of in this phase two is budgeting and acquiring a dam replacement. I think that's something you have to look at with your key stakeholders, see what anytime you're looking at a solution and a tool. I'm sure as many of you know, like it's not just the tool itself; it's also the process and the people. So making sure that that's included in your as you're looking to evaluate tools, how your process is going, how is your team, and providing that as you're kind of moving along the timeline. And then we'll kind of move into some of these other phases as we go along. I think integrating with other platforms. Our key is to integrate with our Sitecore ecosystem. We'll look at our other tools as we're going along, and look to scale in those areas. And the three key takeaways I think from this process that we've learned. I think identifying a proper need is one of the key areas. What does your organization look like? What's your size? Does Content Hub, if you're a smaller organization, maybe Content Hub doesn't make sense for you, or maybe you can use, maybe you need maybe only certain features and functionality. That's a key driver, because when you're looking at as you're scaling as an organization, being able to use a tool like Content Hub DAM allows you to do that. It allows you to be able to do that more smoothly. If you're not using a DAM, I think that's something to identify as well. We're fortunate enough we're using a DAM, but I think being able to use a DAM and making sure that you've identified that as a need for your organization. I know organizations sometimes can be using different tools. They can be using things on creative servers or on SharePoint or within email. You want to make sure you're kind of unifying that if you aren't already. And I think a lot of organizations should be using them if they're not, but make sure that's definitely one you can check off the box for. I think are you basically producing a large amount of content? The Content Hub allows you to kind of manage that. I think that's definitely a key solution. You can use solutions, like I said, like Binder. I think it's a matter of the amount of content. Are you only using it for certain assets, or are only certain teams using it? So kind of make sure that you identify that. And then also, I think with the proper need, also make sure to identify your technical expertise. Do you have the expertise in-house? Do you need to identify that expertise through a partner, or through Sitecore itself, or through some other avenue, to make sure that you can understand the solution and also understand how it will integrate within your ecosystem. The other two kind of key areas were identifying some main challenges for your organization around DAM. What are your pain points? What are the areas you're trying to solve for? Do you need a certain level of functionality, or do you not need that functionality? I think that's definitely something you want to make sure you're there. Are you trying to scale and be able to use some of the other aspects of Content Hub, such as some of the content operations capabilities, or are you just looking to kind of stay in the sphere of just the DAM itself? I think those are key questions to ask, and make sure it'll help you identify the right solution for what your need. As I said, what capabilities do you need immediately? What can be scaled? So do you need all of these features now, or are they ones that you can kind of scale over time? That helps as well. And then are all your stakeholders on board? On our side, we're kind of tasked with the technology side and looking at it and being able to see what works for our marketing team. But are the marketers on board? Is your leadership on board? Are there any other stakeholders, or is your IT team also on board that will help kind of be supporting this from a technical side? So making sure all those people are on board, and that they can help also identify additional challenges that you may face or additional pain points that are out there. And then I think the last takeaway is kind of making sure you're developing a key timeline and your digital roadmap. It's really key to if you don't have your DAM and evaluate your DAM on a kind of regular basis on your digital roadmap, especially as a customer, I think that's something that should be on your radar. Making sure that you're getting the most out of your system. I think that was helpful for us to kind of help identify this. That Content Hub might be a good fit for us. I think taking a phased approach is also important. You may not be able to solve for everything on your first immediate need. You might need to kind of have that built in through phases and adoption depending on how your processes are set up and how your organization works. And I think one of the kind of last areas I think that sometimes gets missed is making sure you're identifying efficiencies and dependencies. Sometimes people take that for granted, but I think that's really helps you to kind of understand what's a good solution for yourself. What is your organization, what's your team trying to solve for? What efficiencies are you looking for? I mean, if you're just looking for it to kind of store maybe some image files, maybe you don't need all of that functionality. Maybe a different solution might be there, or maybe you don't need a DAM at all. I think that most organizations, though, are looking at being able to, integrate their systems and get the most out of them. And I think it's key to kind of make sure you're looking at that. Also, understanding some of the pain points in process that the marketers have, and your brand team and others who may be also using your DAMs is key too. Because if you're all, if they're trying to use it and there's not as high adoption, trying to identify that and trying to it'll help you to kind of see the right solution and what might be a good solution for your organization. I think that's my last slide, Balaji. Thank you. Paul. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
Hey, Chris, hold on. Okay, I can see now. Able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Saying, hey, Karen and Chris, any questions from you guys?
Hey, one quick question. How easy is it to integrate XM on X with XM Cloud, the Content Hub? Is it like pretty straightforward, or there's a lot of lift and shift? First of all, if it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding, at least from the evaluation process that we've been doing on it, is that it should be pretty lift and shift. I don't think it's there's a lot of back and forth on that. I know one of the reasons why we were looking at it in the first place is that if we were to kind of stay with our current solution, like in this case Binder, it has integration capabilities with Sitecore, but it's if you're trying to integrate it with other products within the Sitecore portfolio, if you're using those, it makes it challenging. They are all kind of their own integration, so it's there, but it makes it more challenging. Whereas with Content Hub, that's kind of built in, that that functionalities there. I know within XM, which is what we were looking at it for, and we're at some point going to probably looking at XM Cloud to kind of see where it will go to that level. But I think from an XM perspective, the interface is pretty nice. It kind of integrates nicely into that content editor, and you can kind of choose that versus your media library. So that was kind of key functionality right now, because with what we're doing, it was kind of a more manual process that it shouldn't be. We know that the DAM should be connected, so you don't need to have it be that way. I don't know if that helps, Kieran.
No, sure. that helps. And you said like when you're choosing your DAM, definitely you should have your proper study, and you should see from the requirements and within the organization how it fits. So what's the must have? Like, if you need this requirement to be fulfilled, DAM is the solution. What would you suggest?
I think the key I think is making sure the number of kind of assets you're using. If you're some organizations might be really Sitecore I know has different customers across the board. So you have large scale organizations like United and big companies like that. Then you also I think if you have more mid-range organizations, you might even have enterprise level organizations that are not quite United, but they're also using a lot of tools. I know our organization I think fits more in that category. I think if you're using a lot of assets, and you're noticing you're using it, whether it's in flyers, brochures, on your website, email, you're doing different variants within your personalization. The DAM really makes that much smoother. So I think you definitely should have a DAM, and I think that that's one key consideration. I think another key consideration too is making sure that your marketing department kind of seeing their pain points and their needs, because I know like in our organization, one of the key areas that people are using that, in the past they were using things like, SharePoint. We do have SharePoint for other things, but utilizing that, it has certain functionality, but not the same, features. I mean, even within any DAM pretty much these days, you're able to search, you're able to, download assets, you're able to kind of tag them. I think those are key pieces of functionality that I would say any customer should, make sure they identify. So yeah, definitely number of assets, and then, your team and what their pain points are, because they should be able to, utilize the DAM.
Good to know. Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
Hey, Kiran, I would like to chime in because recently I was working with a client for a DAM selection process.
Yep.
So I have another client who is also an existing Content Hub, like they're using, and we have done a lot of customizations on Content Hub.
Yeah.
I'll give you two scenarios. So this client using already Content Hub has like millions of assets, and they are like a big product catalog company. So they have a lot of product imagery, PDFs, spec documents, manuals, and things like that. And it's tightly integrated with their PIM in River, so that all the information flows through. And then also in Sitecore, for all the image and assets are dynamically picked up from Content Hub with the renditions and all the possibilities. So it's a perfect fit for this customer where we chose Content Hub because it's fully customized for their needs, PIM integration, and a lot of vendors and the graphic designers are directly working with Adobe Photoshop, where they can directly talk to the Content Hub with the plugin, and they can do all those things directly. It's like a seamless flow. For my other customer, they don't have much of imagery, but although they have a lot of documents, not like a PIM or anything, it's like 25 gig of documents, like the same spec sheets and things like that. But Content Hub might not be a good fit for them because they don't have a lot of customization. They ended up going with Acquia.
Yep.
So they were using Binder. I think they moved away from Binder. They didn't like it. So they moved away. So there was a debate between like Content Hub, Acquia, or Primo, or like multiple products we were doing it. Acquia fitted their needs and they went with that option. So you ask, it depends on what their needs are. In this case, it was just images and documents, and they just need a basic DAM. And even the current DAM, we didn't even have a migration plan. Literally, they said like, yeah, we don't need it. Just get rid of it. That's the level they were using, because they were using Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive, all possible mess. So they just want one single storage. So Kiran, that might give you an idea that it depends on the customer needs, what exactly their needs are. One case, I recommend personally, they are using Content Hub. The other case, it was not the recommendation because it's overkill for their needs. And they're not having that budget to spend on that either.
Yes, for sure. I think too, it's, like looking at the two that I was presenting on, between Binder and Content Hub, Binder, Binder's a good mid-range solution. It's not a terrible solution. by any means, but I think it depends on the customers. It's like if you're using, someone's using Sitecore versus WordPress, or someone's using Sitecore versus some other, CMS solution. I think you have to identify what your organization is and where you're trying to go. If you're not scaling at that level, or looking to scale at that level, or if you're like a huge company, you definitely, you definitely have all these assets. You have regionalization, international, you may have images and videos and PDFs and
yeah, videos is also a good one, Ken.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing a streaming, that is also something to consider. One thing, at least from the price point, Kiran, when we were doing all these multiple DAMs, one thing we clearly noticed is different companies charge differently. So there are certain companies, they don't care about your bandwidth. Basically, they look at how many content authors you want, how many pro level users you want. And there are companies where you're like, I need this rendition. Can I use it? Yeah, it's fine. It's another 25K for this package. You need to buy this as a separate module. They will stack up. Like eventually you will be paying more. I think in my case, the creative director had a very bad experience in the past with one of these contracts. They asked for anything. They clearly said it's all done. But when they were using it, they're like, oh, it's not included in your part of your package. Now you need to pay for this. So one other consideration I would recommend is like always look into what their price points are, what is included in the baseline and what is not included.
100%.
Clearly take those takeaways, and the number of seats is something they call seats. So the number of licenses that you use, and also the other part is like the bandwidth that you're going to use. So the DAM is not free, it's edge, it's going to deliver it, but am I having unlimited bandwidth, or is it like 2 terabyte a month? So what the bandwidth is and what is the overage cost is going to be. So those are some things to be considered.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was going to say, even speaking like around Binder's model is very different than Sitecore's as well. I mean, just pairing those two, there's functionality that, looking into this process, one of the reasons why we were kind of looking at it is to see, are you comparing apples to apples, from that perspective? Because, what Binder considers in their DAM and functionality, there's other pieces that are already a part of Content Hub DAM. So it's kind of like if you want to get some of that functionality, you have to kind of weigh that within other tools. And like you were saying, it could be additional cost for each one of those pieces of functionality. I think whereas when you're looking at something like Sitecore Content Hub, they're starting you out at a certain level, but it includes quite a bit of pieces to it, so functionality. So that's kind of key there. If you're looking to add on those, content operations capabilities and things like that, those the price range kind of adjusts. But I think if you're looking at a DAM for a DAM, I think there's not, to your point, Balaji, like they're not all equal, and their pricing models are very different.
Yeah, at least with the Acquia, we were saying like the video has no throttling, it's unlimited. But specifically with Binder, is the one I was talking about, had multiple different
multiple tiers.
10K for this, and we were asking like, how about the Sitecore connector? And they're like, okay, you need to pay so and so for that.
Yep.
So each company is different.
Yep, for sure. Yep, that's what we found too.
Yep.
Yeah, good to know. And that's kind of a common, a story for all SaaS products, right? Like when you're choosing those cloud-based products, you have to be very careful, like what they're offering. I mean, what is included and what is the add-on. Like you're building a Porsche.